Have you ever wondered why certain women can make even the strongest men falter, not with beauty, but with presence? Most people believe that power in attraction comes from light, charm, or sweetness. But the truth is far more dangerous. It's born in the shadows. What you think makes you too much, your mystery, your silence, your depth, is what makes him tremble. Carl Jung believed that the shadow, the repressed and instinctual part of the psyche, holds the very energy that animates desire. And when a woman learns to dance with her shadow instead of hiding it, she awakens something primal in him, something he cannot control, and cannot forget. There are moments when the feminine no longer tries to be gentle or pleasing. Her softness remains, but it carries an undertone, a subtle defiance, a truth too raw for performance. The air around her thickens, not because she seeks attention, but because she no longer needs it. Men feel it instantly. The masculine instinct, honed through centuries of conquest, pauses in her presence. He senses the difference between the woman who performs power and the one who embodies it. The first invites pursuit. The second demands reverence. Her forbidden cues are not loud, they are archetypal, ancient, and visceral. When she looks at him without expectation, he feels the weight of his own reflection. When she withholds unnecessary words, he feels his mind unravel. When she moves with slow certainty, she mirrors the rhythm of something sacred, the untamed nature that his soul has long forgotten. In her stillness, he meets his own chaos. In her gaze, he faces his own fears. She does not seduce him, she reveals him. The shadow feminine is not darkness, she is wholeness. She is the union of the light that loves and the shadow that remembers. Most women try to lead with one and hide the other, believing that only the polished version of themselves deserves connection. But the masculine cannot bond with illusion. He bonds with reality, with truth, with danger, with the unpredictable heartbeat of authenticity. When she stops pretending to be perfect, her imperfection becomes magnetic. She becomes the living symbol of what Jung called the anima, the inner feminine that every man unconsciously seeks to reunite with. Her presence activates something old in him, a memory from the collective unconscious, the eternal story of man meeting mystery. He may not understand it consciously, but he feels it in the tightening of his chest, in the silence between their words, in the ache that follows her absence. His ego wants to dominate her, his soul wants to dissolve in her. It is not her beauty that disarms him, but the paradox she carries, softness that cannot be controlled, vulnerability that does not beg. She does not ask for love, she commands recognition through authenticity. When she speaks, her voice is steady, unhurried. When she walks, she takes up space without apology. These are not gestures of arrogance, they are echoes of remembrance. Every motion says, I am not here to please you. I am here to be. And in that being, she awakens both his desire and his discomfort. Because a man who meets such a woman cannot remain who he was. She forces him to confront his own shadow, his need to control, to categorize, to claim. This is why strong men tremble. Not because she overpowers them, but because she mirrors their hidden weakness. She reflects the places within them that crave softness yet fear surrender. And in her quiet strength, they feel their own walls shake. The forbidden cue is not a look, a word, or a touch. It is her energy, contained. The air around her feels different, as if time slows to accommodate her presence. When she enters a room, she doesn't announce herself, but the atmosphere changes regardless. Even men who pride themselves on composure feel an unexplainable pull, like a tide turning under their feet. It's not her beauty that disarms them, beauty can be catalogued, assessed, compared. It's her energy, the resonance of something both dangerous and divine. The shadow feminine carries the vibration of mystery, and mystery has always been stronger than certainty. Carl Jung wrote that the unconscious does not speak in words, but in symbols. She has become that symbol, not through effort, but through embodiment. Her gestures speak the language of the archetypes. The subtle tilt of her head, the measured pause before she responds, the way her silence holds more meaning than anyone's speech, all of it speaks to the part of him that logic cannot reach. He doesn't realize it, but she's not communicating with his mind, she's speaking directly to his soul. Her energy bypasses thought and touches instinct, awakening a hunger that feels both ancient and sacred. What shakes the strong man is not weakness, it's vulnerability paired with control. The woman who knows her shadow has faced her wounds, made peace with her flaws, and no longer seeks to be understood. This is her first forbidden cue, stillness after revelation. When she speaks truth, she doesn't explain or soften it. She lets silence follow. That silence becomes unbearable to him, because it holds weight, the kind of emotional gravity he's unaccustomed to. In that space, he sees himself reflected. The more he tries to analyze, the more he loses composure. She doesn't rush to fill the pause, because she knows that silence, when grounded in confidence, is the loudest form of communication. Her second cue is the contradiction of presence and distance. She can be deeply connected in one moment and detached in the next, without bitterness. Her energy tells him, I can love you without losing myself. To the uninitiated man, this feels like a riddle he cannot solve. He is used to either dominance or devotion, but she offers neither, she offers balance. This balance stirs a deep archetypal memory within him, the dance between the king and the priestess, the masculine bowing not to a woman, but to consciousness through her. He trembles not because she threatens him, but because she awakens him. And the third forbidden cue lies in her eyes. Not the surface of them, but the energy behind them. When she looks at him, she sees through him, beyond his posturing, beyond his armor. It's not a gaze of judgment but of recognition. She meets his shadow with her own, and that moment of mutual exposure is electric. His body may not understand it, but his soul does, she has seen him. In her gaze, he meets the part of himself that he's buried beneath control. That meeting shakes him because it feels like truth, raw, unfiltered, undeniable. The shadow feminine does not need to prove her worth. She already carries it in her energy. When she walks away, she leaves an imprint, not a wound. The men who meet her find themselves haunted, not in pain, but in awe. They remember the tone of her silence, the certainty in her gestures, the look that pierced through their defenses. They remember the way she didn't try to hold them, yet they couldn't let go. This is her art, to exist fully, without dilution. The woman who integrates her shadow doesn't seduce through performance. She seduces through presence. Her cues are not learned behaviors, they are reflections of an inner harmony between power and surrender. When she moves, she carries the weight of her history and the light of her healing. She trembles for no one, and that is why strong men tremble for her. In her presence, the masculine begins to lose the illusion of control. He has spent a lifetime believing that strength is domination, that to lead is to never yield. But when he meets a woman who has befriended her shadow, something primal within him shifts. He feels the quiet power of her restraint, how she can hold his gaze without flinching, how her body remains unhurried while his pulse quickens. She is not performing, she is remembering. Every movement, every breath is an act of reclamation. She has met her pain and transmuted it into magnetism. And he, without understanding why, finds himself drawn into orbit. What makes her power forbidden is that it cannot be taught, only embodied. It comes from the alchemy of facing darkness and refusing to collapse. Most women run from their shadow, from jealousy, rage, fear of rejection. But she has sat with them, learned their language, and found the treasure beneath, truth. The truth that emotion is not weakness, that softness is not surrender, that mystery is not manipulation. When she accepts all that she is, the tender and the terrifying, her energy becomes complete. Jung called this integration the key to individuation, the moment when the fragmented self becomes whole. Her shadow cues are not tactics. They are side effects of authenticity. When she turns away after an intimate moment, it's not to provoke, it's to return to herself. When she smiles faintly at his attempts to define her, it's not arrogance, it's awareness. When she chooses silence instead of explanation, it's not distance, it's discernment. Each of these gestures tells the same story: I am not afraid of myself. And a woman unafraid of herself will always disarm a man who is still at war with his own reflection. The strong man trembles because her wholeness exposes his fragmentation. He senses that she has entered realms within herself that he has avoided, the emotional, the intuitive, the unseen. Her comfort with the intangible awakens both desire and fear in him. Desire, because she represents the freedom he secretly craves. Fear, because she mirrors the vulnerability he denies. When she speaks, her words seem to carry layers, as if she is conversing with both the conscious and unconscious world. He finds himself leaning closer, not because she asks him to, but because something inside him recognizes her as the threshold between what is known and what is possible. To the unawakened man, this woman feels dangerous. He mistakes her independence for indifference, her silence for rejection, her composure for coldness. But to the awakened man, she feels like truth, grounding, liberating, magnetic. He understands that her energy does not invite conquest, but communion. And so, he softens. The masculine that once sought to control begins to surrender, not to her, but through her, into himself. She becomes the mirror through which he meets his own soul. Her power is not loud. It hums beneath the surface, steady and unshakable. She does not chase attention, attention finds her. She does not demand respect, respect becomes instinctive around her. The forbidden quality of her aura lies in its refusal to be contained. Men sense it, the subtle current of unpredictability, the quiet knowing that she cannot be owned. And that awareness ignites devotion, the kind born not of possession but of reverence. Even in solitude, her energy remains luminous. The woman of shadow knows that magnetism begins in the unseen, in the alignment of her inner world. She doesn't need to announce her value, it radiates from her posture, her tone, her silence. To look at her is to feel the weight of everything unsaid, the poetry of what cannot be captured. She is not trying to be mysterious, she simply is. And in that effortless truth, she becomes the living embodiment of Jung's ultimate revelation. There comes a moment when the shadowed feminine no longer seeks validation, and that is the moment she becomes unstoppable. Her energy shifts from wanting to be seen to being the thing that cannot go unnoticed. It is not about seduction anymore, it's about sovereignty. She no longer moves to attract, but to express. And yet, paradoxically, that is what makes her irresistible. For the masculine psyche, there is nothing more intoxicating than a woman who has learned to love the parts of herself the world told her to hide. When she walks through the world with this wholeness, she bends the invisible field around her. Even without touch, she is felt. Even without words, she communicates. Men sense her before they see her, the way animals sense a shift in weather, a quiet storm approaching. They cannot name it, but they respond. It is not lust alone that rises in them, it is awe, confusion, respect, fear, the entire spectrum of feeling that their intellect cannot categorize. Jung would say she awakens the archetypal anima, the inner image of woman that stirs a man's longing for his own soul. The paradox is that she does nothing extraordinary. Her cues are subtle, nearly invisible. A slow inhale after silence. A glance that doesn't linger, yet leaves an imprint. A stillness that feels alive, as if something ancient is breathing through her. She embodies what Jung called the numinous, the quality of divinity that radiates from those who have met the depths of their own being. Men mistake it for enchantment, but it's simply integration made visible. What makes her power forbidden is its independence from approval. She does not need him to name her valuable for her value to exist. This unsettles men who have built their identity on being the chooser, the decider, the protector. In her presence, those roles dissolve. She needs nothing from them, and it is precisely that wholeness that makes them want to give everything. Her energy demands no offering, yet devotion becomes natural in its presence. But her influence extends beyond desire. The men who meet her are changed. Some resist the change, retreating into control or dismissal. Others awaken, realizing that her presence was not a test but an initiation. Through her, they glimpse the truth Jung hinted at, that the feminine is not a being to conquer, but a force to integrate. Her shadow mirrors their own unclaimed emotion, grief, tenderness, fear of surrender, and through that reflection, they are invited to evolve. She understands this dance intuitively. Her stillness is not passive, it's active presence. Her softness is not weakness, it's discipline. Her shadow cues are not manipulations, they are expressions of alignment. The way she looks without pleading, the way she loves without clinging, the way she departs without drama, all of it tells the same story: she has chosen herself. And that choice reverberates through every interaction, radiating as quiet authority. This woman does not compete with other women, nor does she chase male attention. She knows her power does not lie in comparison but in coherence. Every aspect of her, the light, the dark, the tender, the wild, moves in harmony. That harmony creates the magnetic field that makes strong men tremble. Because they are not trembling at her, they are trembling at what she represents: freedom. The kind of freedom they have not yet earned within themselves. And still, she holds compassion. She knows that power without tenderness becomes tyranny, and that love without boundaries becomes decay. So she carries both, a softness that heals and a sovereignty that protects. Her energy says, "You may stand beside me, but never above me." And in that truth, the dance between shadow and strength becomes art. In the deepest layers of her being, she has stopped performing even for herself. There is no longer a split between who she shows and who she is. The light and the shadow move as one, not rivals, but rhythm. This is the final transformation, when a woman ceases to identify with only her gentleness or her strength, and instead embodies wholeness. Men can feel this even before she speaks. The air thickens around her, as though her presence bends reality itself. Jung once said that, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances: if there is any reaction, both are transformed. And that is her essence, transformation incarnate. The strongest men do not fear her because she is cruel, they fear her because she is true. There is no projection left for them to hold on to, no illusion to chase. Her eyes no longer reflect their fantasies back at them. They reflect only what is. Some men retreat from that mirror, unable to bear their own reflection. Others fall to their knees, not in worship, but in surrender, the soul's acknowledgement that it has met its match. The forbidden cue now is simple existence. She does not chase, persuade, or prove. Her stillness radiates authority, her laughter carries power. Even her absence becomes a presence that cannot be ignored. Her magnetism no longer pulls through polarity but through peace. This is the rarest frequency, the energy of a woman who has nothing to prove, nothing to hide, and nothing to lose. Her love does not come as a storm but as an awakening. The man who encounters it feels his defenses unravel, not from force, but from recognition. He realizes that he has been searching for what she already found, self-belonging. The forbidden becomes sacred. The feminine that once made him tremble now teaches him how to stand still, how to hold truth without needing to control it. Her shadow no longer hides in darkness. It moves through her gestures like electricity, quiet and inevitable. She is not trying to be mysterious, mystery has become her nature. Her gaze no longer tests or tempts, it simply sees. And being seen, truly seen, terrifies those who have built lives on masks. But for the awakened, that gaze feels like home. It says, "You are safe to be whole here." Through her, love evolves from performance into presence, from dependency into devotion, from fantasy into freedom. The world may still whisper that her power is dangerous, that her silence is cold, that her detachment is pride. But she smiles, for she knows the truth, her energy is not absence, it is sovereignty. Every part of her, even the pieces once labeled too emotional or too much, has been reclaimed. Her past no longer defines her, it feeds her. Her softness no longer threatens her strength, it completes it. She walks in balance, not perfection. Her steps are deliberate, grounded in peace. The earth itself seems to listen when she moves. And when men tremble now, it is not from fear, it is from recognition of something divine. The kind of divinity that does not beg to be believed in. The kind that simply is. They sense that to love her is to evolve, and that is the true fear, that they must meet her as equals, not saviors. She offers no illusion of control, only the mirror of consciousness. To be near her is to be invited into transformation. To lose her is to lose an initiation that few are given twice. But she does not mourn what leaves. She has transcended the need to be chosen, for she knows she is the choice itself, not an option, but a force. Her energy, once scattered seeking love, now radiates as love. And in that knowing, her story ends not with longing, but with liberation. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses.